Hello, I'm Jeff Walton, and after reading the books we were to read, Deuteronomy through Kings, got some concerns with human leadership that I would like to share with you all. Of course, we all saw God's kingship established over Israel by the covenants He made first at Sinai, then reestablished again at Moab with Moses, reestablished again at Shechem with Joshua, and so He had declared Himself as the king of these guys. So we see that leadership provided by Him contrasted with the human leadership that they so desperately sought. Some of the issues that I saw in Deuteronomy, Moses was the greatest leader probably of the entire Old Testament, but even he was still fallible. He was imperfect. He was impatient with the people. He was impatient even with God, and that's the reason he doesn't get to enter the promised land with the rest of Israel. He gets worn down by the pressures. David later on was another one of the greatest leaders mentioned. He was also fallible. He was not perfect. He got caught up in adultery. Solomon was another great leader. Of course, he made the mistake of all those wives and concubines. Nobody can handle that much pressure. Joshua even was a great leader. He was tricked by the Gibeonites. So even the best ones that they had to offer were not infallible, were never going to be perfect. And as opposed to the leadership that God offered, these people could only be in one place at one time. They could only listen to so many voices and address so many needs at a given time, as opposed to, of course, the omnipresent, omniscient God that they served. So another theme I saw, of course, when human leadership is selected by humans, it's often done by a different criteria than when God selects it. When Samuel's looking for a king among David's brothers, we all know the verse when he's reminded that God looks at the heart, whereas man looks at the outward appearance. And of course we know the heart is what's most important here. Picked up on the theme of power associated with leadership, kind of going to the head of those who are in power, causing them to do things that they knew were wrong. Of course, I think that it starts with Gideon and making the ephod that he knew he shouldn't do. Then, of course, Abimelech, and it just leads into this theme, another theme of the decline, kind of a downward spiral of the quality of leadership that they get when they start depending on these human leaders, and leads to the decline of the nation as a whole. Sins seem to get worse every time. The times of peace seem to get shorter every time. It takes longer for the people to cry out to God every time, and it's just a decline or a downward spiral. And every time they return to their wicked ways, it just gets worse and worse under the leadership of these humans. Of course, in 1 Samuel 8, I think is the clearest picture of the concern with human leadership when Israel's crying out to Samuel to find them a king. They want a king like everybody else. And God tells Samuel to tell Israel the dangers that are going to be associated when they do get this king that they want so badly. He's going to send their sons to war. He's going to make their daughters support the business of war. Going to have taxes. Going to make you slaves. But they don't listen to this warning. They insist. So God gives them exactly what they want. I think the main thing that I picked up on as far as concerns with human leadership is that relying on this human leadership seems to take away their dependence on God and give them a false sense of security. The reason they gave Samuel when they were begging for a king They want a king like the other nations have, a king to go out before us and to fight our battles, is what they said in 1 Samuel 19 through 20. And of course, when you read these words, you can't help but be reminded of Moses' words to Israel in Exodus 14:14, when they were leaving Egypt and they were being pursued by Pharaoh's armies, and they were at the Red Sea, and they were complaining already and scared for their lives, of course. And Moses tells them that famous verse we all know in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. And so we see the contrast of these two things. The Israelites already have a king that will go out before them and fight their battles for them, but they are blind to this. Apparently they want a human king that they can rely on to go out and fight their battles for them, when they already have one who has promised to do that for them. And it's really sad. So I'm all for forming a theocracy with God as our head. Who's with me? Good night.